Hey, what is up guys, and welcome back. So today we're going to be taking a look at the Eachine ROTG02. Now this is a nice little piece of hardware. What it'll allow you to do is basically watch your FPV video feed on your phone through an application. Now you might say, well, wouldn't that introduce latency? Yes, it will. And it's pretty obvious. And I have tested that, and you're going to see that in a bit, where I put an FPV screen versus my phone running this. Next to it, there was latency. So if you're looking for a latency sensitive application, or you're using it where latency is very important, then this might not be the product for you. So getting that out of the way first, let's continue on. So this is a step up from their previous models. They've have different models here, and they have two antennas here. Now I was afraid, like one of their previous models, which was one for Wi-Fi and one for the just a 5.8 gigahertz video feed. However, this actually is a diversity. It does have two RX5808 receivers built in, which we're going to take apart and take a closer look at in just a tiny bit. Now let's see some of the things it comes with. They just give you two dipolar antennas, which is pretty basic. They give you micro USB to micro USB. Now be careful when setting this up on your phone, because well, you don't have to be careful. Just if it doesn't work, then you have to switch to the other side. That's what they're stating. However, my phone was a USB-C, so I just used. They even provided us with a micro USB to USB-C cable, which I thought was really nice, and it's actually very useful. So that's a huge plus for you, Eachine. That is something really awesome. So that's something pretty cool. Okay, so we just saw everything it comes with. Let's take it apart and let's take a look inside. I really love this screwdriver. You guys haven't been seeing it much on the channel, but every time I'm going to do something, I'm just reaching out for this one. It's really nice. And now I see why they don't put so much torque in it. It's because it's for these types of works. You know, when you're working on something like this, which is really sensitive, especially like taking it apart PCBs and stuff, it just makes a lot of sense. All right, guys. So once opening it, I was afraid that I was only going to see one receiver, and that's what I exactly just see now. And I was like, oh no, it's two antennas and one receiver. But if we flip it over, we see the second receiver, which is really nice. So on the side, we just have the receiver, the 5.8 gigahertz receiver. We also have two buttons. We have this, which they're not stating anything about, but I figured out what this was, and I'll show you in a little bit. The USB to export the video feed, as well as supply power to this. And we have a couple ICs here. This one I think is doing the video processing, because both videos are being outputted to this one. This one is in charge of the SPI protocol to enable you to change channels through the buttons here. This thing is actually quite moddable. We can do some crazy stuff with this actually if we really wanted to, but I'm still thinking, what should we do with it? Now, first things first, what I really wanted to do is find a specific or standalone IC that was controlling both of the videos. So maybe like it would just be, you know, one of those video analog switch ICs, and that would have been really nice because we could have piped out the AV output. However, this thing does have an AV output, and it's right here. So actually one of these pins is 5 volt, the other one is ground, one is audio and one is video. But diversity does not work here from this this little connector. Only one of them, and I think it was this one, or I think it was this one. This one is the one that's outputting to this connector here. Alright guys, so let's figure out what this connector actually does here. And it was kind of simple just to figure it out. I was really hoping that they would output both of the receivers into this, but they actually don't. So first thing we want to do is we actually want to get our multimeter, continuity mode. We're going to touch ground. The shielding is usually ground here, so I'm going to touch it with one here. And I'm going to start touching the inner pins, and let's see which one's which. So the one that beeps is currently ground. So the one all the way on the right is ground. The one right over next to it, I have no idea. I think it could be 5 volts, but I could be mistaken. So I'd highly recommend not to connect anything to the second pin from the right side. So if you go, first one is ground, second one, we'll call it unknown, but possibly 5 volts. Just nothing beeped on it. And then the third pin over is going to be the video, if you can tell right here. That's video. And then the next one over is audio. So we're taking video and audio from this receiver here on this connector. So we're only using one of them. And it would be the antenna on the left here. So if you had the case right here and you wanted to, for some reason, just pipe out just that video, then it would be this one here. So I'd highly recommend you put an antenna here, or the better antenna here if you wanted to pipe out. And I think this in theoretically, this actually will give you a no latency video output, but it would be some sort of an AV output here. So take that into consideration. That's what I guess that's used for, even though they're not mentioning what it does, but luckily we figured out what it does here. Now, if we take a look at the backside here, this one, both of the receivers have their video signals being piped here. So I think it's being processed in here. This IC here is controlling the SPI to change channels basically on both receivers. So it's running the SPI protocol on this, and I think also the audio is outputted to this one as well here, if I remember correctly. And let's actually double check this. I'm not sure. Let's see. So we're going to go to audio, which is usually the third one. Most of these receivers are exactly the same pinouts. So yeah, so the audio is going one of these ICs. It's not going to this one here. So I know the two video outputs are going to the first top two pins right here. So for some reason, if you wanted to take the video out of these two, you can easily do that with just soldering a wire to this pin here, which is the second one on the right, and also the same thing on this one. And here's a ground if you wanted to do something here. Now, if you're a type of guy who mods, this is very useful information. If not, then maybe you'll learn a thing or two here. But overall, it's a really nice design. I really like it. It's very simple, actually. It's much more simple than I thought. And again, it's going to be very difficult for a company to release such a device with very low latency. It's almost impossible still. It's actually possible, but it would be really, really expensive. But it's really nice that they released this. I don't know what you could use it for. I mean, everyone has their own use, but flying indoors with a micro is not one of them. And you'll see that in a little bit. That's what I was trying to do. That's how I was trying to test it here. So I actually found it to be pretty stable, but the latency was pretty terrible. So anything that needs quite low latency this is not going to be the thing for it. For example, flying a micro in the shop, that's just something that you can do, but it's a very unpleasant experience in my opinion, because that's how I tested it here, just to see how bad the latency was. And I just couldn't fly from this. I had both an FPV screen on the left and I had this one on the right with my phone, and not because my phone screen is smaller, I just couldn't fly because the latency was really noticeable, and it was just not helping me able to fly, especially in such a tight confined area. I needed as low latency as possible so I can make my corrections accordingly to what I was doing at the time. So overall, it's a really nice device. It's really stable. You can record to your phone, so maybe that's also a nice little feature. So you can use your phone as a DVR. You could probably also use this on the PC, which I actually haven't tried to use it on the PC yet. But this thing can be used for quite a lot, even though I really wished if it just had a separate IC for the DVR function. Not the DVR, the diversity. That would have been really, really nice. Because we could do a lot more mods to it. But even then, you could still do some crazy cool things with this also. You can set up some sort of a separate IC to do an analog output with diversity. If you guys are interested in that, we could probably go ahead and try to do something. I could probably design a new PCB for it, and it'll be really nice. Alright guys, so overall it's a really nice device, and again, if you need it for some kind of a latency sensitive application, it's not the thing for you at all. So just take that into consideration. However, what you can do is use it as, you can use your phone as a DVR. You can also use it as someone just to watch what you're doing through the phone. So it's really nice in that perspective. But for you to be concentrating and trying to hit gates and gaps with this only on a phone is very unlikely. It's very difficult. I'm not saying you can't get used to the latency, but the latency is really noticeable. And yeah, well, overall that's it. I mean, this thing has its own use, and let me know what you'd use it for down in the comment section. And I really hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.